another episode. I'm Bobby here with my co-host Andrew, and today we're going to be covering UFC 287 down in South Beach. This is a great card. A lot of fights to look forward to, a lot of interesting storylines, and we're going to get right into it. We're going to get straight into the main event. Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, the second MMA fight. They have two prior kickboxing fights, and so far Pereira is 3-0. It sure seems like he has Izzy's number. So it's gonna be a tough road to victory for Izzy, but anything can happen. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, you said he has his number. I mean, there's that number right there, 3-0. 3 prior fights between these two warriors. 3 wins for Alex Pereira. I mean, hey, maybe he didn't look as technically good in all 3 fights. I mean, you could even say Izzy looked technically better in all of them, but Pereira, man, he just finds a way to beat this guy. He finds a way to beat a lot of guys, but specifically Izzy, he's found a way to finish him really in 2 of the 3 fights. And he's a bigger guy. He's got so much more power, right? And is that a mental block for Izzy? Is he going to be able to get over the mental side of this fight? He's lost 3 times to this guy. Can he get over it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely weighing on his mind, I imagine. Izzy seems like a pretty mentally tough guy, so I think he can work past it. But there's got to be, at some point, preparing for this fight, there has to be a little bit of doubt creeping in. This guy's beat me 3 times, knocked me out, maybe not out cold in both of them, but he lost by knockout in 2 of the 3 fights. It's definitely weighing on his mind, but from a technical standpoint, I agree. I think he's a much better fighter in that aspect. But with the size advantage that Pereira has, and with how much power he has, especially in that left hook, it's so hard to beat this guy. You've got to be almost perfect to go the distance and win by decision, and make it out of there without getting knocked out. But for Pereira, it seems like if he lands that left hook clean, it's pretty much all she wrote.
Right, the left hook, right. But in the last fight, hey, he went to those legs, and Izzy's movement, which is such a big part of his, technical style, it really hindered him late in that fight, right? I mean, that's the reason Alex was able to walk him down in that 5th round, get him back to the cage and land the left hook, So, we can say, hey, it's a big power advantage. Alex is a technical mastermind too. He's a great technical fighter, but he also just has that power advantage, and Izzy needs to avoid those leg kicks. He needs, and hey, a way he can do that in this fight, maybe utilize some wrestling.
I'm with that, and I think that's what he needs to do. In their last fight, it certainly looked like Pereira seemed a bit tired after that round where Pereira was on his back for a while. I think that Izzy needs to rely on that more. I know he'll get a lot of heat for that. The fans won't be too happy. They're gonna, find reasons to complain about that. But it's MMA. I mean, that's what it is. So I think he does need to go to that more if he wants to beat Pereira. I don't think he can stand to strike 5 rounds with this guy. He's gonna get caught at some point if he tries to do that. But if he utilizes that wrestling, and I'm sure he's been training it, I think he has a solid chance to win.
I mean, you can say people will criticize him for that. When you're 0-3 against a guy, you just got to beat him. It doesn't matter how. I mean, that's such a hurdle he has to get over in his career. I mean, if he loses this fight, and I mean, who knows where he goes if he does lose this fight, but even if, he does keep fighting after this and he gets more wins down the line, there's always going to be this giant, circle around his career of, hey, you lost to this one guy 4 straight times. You didn't beat him once. So, wrestle if that's going to get you a win, man. You're 0-3. Get a win against this guy.
Yeah, he needs to get that one on the records. 0-4. As great as he's had a career in the UFC, it's from a legacy standpoint, you really want to see him get past this guy. And that would be big to stamp his legacy in the UFC. So this is a big fight. This is, for the future of the middleweight division. Depending on how this fight goes, the division could look so differently down the line. And especially with Pereira potentially moving up to 205 if he wins this fight.
Yeah. He could become a double champ here soon.
Potentially.
And then if Israel wins, hey, I mean, maybe we just go back to normal. Pereira, rides off into 205 and he just, hey, I finally got that win. Let's move on. But There are a lot of ways this could go,
Yeah, yeah, and we know Pereira is big enough for 205. There's no doubt about that. He
Yeah.
weighs around like what 220 on fight days.
220.
So yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all. Looking at the odds of this fight, Vegas has Izzy as a minus 140 favorite right now, and Pereira is a plus 110 underdog. So the champ is an underdog in this fight. But the odds are a lot closer than they were in the last fight.
A lot closer. I mean, going into the last fight, we didn't know, hey, is Izzy going to grapple? And he didn't really. And but he's also just technically better. We saw that in the first 2 fights too. So I think it's fair to have Izzy as a favorite, but it's got to be closer because that power is so significant,
That power and the 3-0 record for Pereira, it's tough to look past. So our predictions on this fight, I'll start us with that. I'm going to go Pereira. It pains me to say it because I love Izzy, but I got Pereira by a round 4 TKO. I don't think he puts him out clean. I think Izzy's chin holds up. But I think Pereira catches him. I don't think Izzy's able to do enough to get a guy that big down, especially with the lack of experience he has wrestling. But I think Pereira gets it done.
Yeah, I've been so back and forth on this. When this first fight, the fight first got announced, I said, Poaton's in his head, he knocks him out. And then I said, well, but Izzy's been technically better in every fight they've had. Maybe he can outlast him for 5 rounds. Maybe. And he can get a decision victory that he is so close to getting over this guy. I've been flip-flop, and I think, we're a day away from this fight. I think Poaton does it again. I have him winning by 3rd round TKO. You said 4th. I have 3rd. I think he's gonna land that big shot like he always has against Izzy, and he gets him out of there.
Yeah, it's not the outcome I'm looking forward to, but it's what I think is going to happen. And I'd rather give that prediction than speak from the heart. And you know what? I've been pretty off on my main event predictions lately, so
there you go.
Man, maybe it works out for me.
Reverse jinx. Jinx.
Yeah. Moving on, we're going to the co-main. We got Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. Jorge he's in his home turf in Miami right now, but Vegas doesn't like him too much. Regardless, he's a plus 325 underdog, while Gilbert Burns is a minus 500 favorite. So Burns the big favorite in this fight, and I think for good reason. What do you make of it?
For good reason. I mean, he has a supreme grappling advantage, which has just crippled Jorge in his last fight against Colby. But in a lot of fights like Usman and his strength is not grappling. It's very clear. He really hasn't gotten better with time. I mean, he got 50-44 by Colby Covington. He got just out grappled for 5 rounds. And Gilbert in his last two fights, or I guess not 2 fights because of the Hamzat fight, but in his last fight against Neil Magny, and then he also wrestle fucked Wonder Boy. He has a clear advantage in the grappling department, and he has hands too. So I'm struggling to find a path to victory for Jorge Masvidal.
I think if Masvidal keeps it on the feet the whole fight, I think he has a chance of winning. But but Burns still has that power. He's one of those like compact looking guys. He's short, but when he gets in close, he has crazy power. I mean, he almost put out Hamzat, and the punch he landed on him at the end of round 2 in that fight, that would have put out most guys. He's got serious power. But I think Burns wins this fight, and I think he does it through grappling. I think he keeps it on the ground for majority of the fight, and I think he wins by decision. What do you got as a prediction?
I think if he wants to put on a show, he'll stand with him, and I don't think he'll get knocked out because Gilbert, like you said, he hurt Hamzat. He hurt Usman in their title fight, actually, too. So he's got hands. He's not going to be afraid to stand toe-to-toe with Jorge. I don't think he should do it for a long time.
Yeah.
That could cost him. These guys are both aging. We don't know what's left of their chins. Gilbert could be due to be knocked out. But I agree with you. I think he takes him down. I have Gilbert Burns by decision. I think he wins probably every round if he wants to grapple because it'll be easy for him. But maybe he tries to make this exciting and stands with him, but I don't see it.
Yeah, well, and speaking of aging too, it's important to note that this is a incredibly important fight in that division, welterweight. because with how open it is now, with Usman being out of the picture for at least the meantime, and both of these guys looking to potentially make a run at a title shot. I know Masvidal, he's getting up there, but he still talked about wanting to have another title run if he can get past this fight. And then Burns, obviously, I think he's capable of going on a run towards title shot. So this is a huge fight for welterweight. It's one I'm looking forward to for sure.
Yeah, I mean, with Usman not being the champ anymore, I mean, everybody that lost to him is now free to go get a title shot again, right? So they're all just going to fight each other. It's going to be hopefully some good wars, and one of these guys is going to go on a run and get another title shot.
Yep. And moving on to our third fight of the night, we have Rob Font and Adrian Yanez. Yanez, he's a minus 195 favorite, and Font is a plus 145 underdog. I think that's fair. I know Font, he has back-to-back losses. He lost to Aldo and he lost to Cheeto in his last two fights. So it makes sense there. This is a pretty solid test for Yanez. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I mean, Rob Font has lost his last two, but he showed durability. He did get pieced up a lot in those fights, and he's tough, but young, hungry prospect here in Adrian Yanez. Great hands. I mean, this is going to be a war. These guys are going to stand and bang. A lot of boxing in this fight because they both love showing off their combos with the hands. Rob Font has a great jab, actually. He has one, probably maybe the best jab at that at bantamweight weight class. But he's older. He's had damage, and like you said, in his last two fights against tough opponents, albeit. But Adrian Yanez is a good opponent too, and he's young and he's hungry, and he's going to want to get into the top 10.
Yeah, two great strikers. I'm expecting a great fight out of this one. Potential fight of the night. Potential. I don't want to jinx it or anything. I don't want to get my hopes too high, but I could see that being a possibility. I have Yanez winning by a round 2 knockout. I think both these guys got great hands, but like you said, Fonten's getting up there, coming off back-to-back losses, and Yanez is hungry. So that's my prediction. I got round 2 knockout. What about you?
I also have round 2 knockout. I did right. Yeah, I wrote down round 2 knockout. Adrian Yanez. He's on a 9-fight win streak. He's just hungrier. He's younger, and he can make a big run at this in the next couple of years because he has great hands. And it's a tough division. Don't get me wrong, but if he can this is a big test for him on a pay-per-view stage. In a city they haven't been to in a long time. So it's a big event, and I think he gets it done. Like I said, round 2 knockout.
Awesome. Moving on to Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, a fight that you had concern about if it's happening or not. But if it does happen, right now Holland, he is a minus 260 favorite, and Ponzinibbio is a plus 185 underdog. Pretty big in favor of Holland there. Back-to-back losses for Holland. With granted they were against Hamzat and Wonder Boy, so I can kind of justify it, especially in the Wonder Boy fight since he broke his hand. And then Ponzinibbio, he is 2-3 since coming back from blood and bone infections that he was fighting back from. So both of these guys need a win. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, the Ponzinibbio story's sad because he was a great prospect, and then he was out for 3 years or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, that was a tough break for his career, and in 3 years, a lot can change in 3 years in MMA. I mean, the opponents get better, you get older, and you're out of the ring. So it's understandable for him to be 2-3 since his return. And it's not going to get any easier for him because Kevin Holland bangs. He has wars. Ponzinibbio, even though he won his last fight by knockout, he did get hurt in that fight. And if you're susceptible to damage, you probably don't want to be fighting Kevin Holland because he has hands.
Yeah, well, I love to watch Holland let those hands loose. Two solid fighters. I got Holland in this one, and I'm excited to see more funny Kevin Holland moments too leading up to the fight. What's your prediction here?
Jorge Masvidal beef? That would be greatness.
Fight?
That would be a major fight. But in terms of a prediction, I agree with you. But listen, Kevin Holland has shown some craftiness in his submission game. And so here's my prediction. I doubt a lot of people are going to be, I don't know what the odds are on Kevin Holland by submission, but I think he's going to knock him down in the second round and get on his neck, whether it be like a guillotine or get on his back and get a rear naked. He's shown slick submissions, and I think he gets a submission in this fight. Second round, sub.
Okay. Well, hey, if you want to put some money on that, I'm sure you'd get a pretty good return.
There's my
I imagine the odds
bet.
are good there.
There's my
So,
big bet prediction. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't say the method of victory. I got round 3 knockout for Holland. I think he gets it done on the feet. I think he lands the knockout. But I'm excited for this fight. I like the Ponzinibbio storyline, and I hope he bounces back from that illness that he's fighting. But I also like Kevin Holland a lot, and I like watching him fight. And that's my honest prediction, not just speaking from the heart there.
Fun
So,
fight.
Yeah, Holland round 3 knockout. And then moving on, we're going to talk about the first fight of the card. Sorry, Raul Rojas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. Everybody knows about Rojas at this point. 18 years old, and already winning UFC fights. It's crazy. He was winning fights at 17. It's ridiculous. A lot of I can't say for certain what he'll be in the future, but it looks bright. He'll at least be around in the UFC for a long time, it seems. And I'm excited to see this. This is a big test for him. I think it's a much harder fight than Jay Perrin last year. And going into this, he's a minus 260 favorite. And Rodriguez, he's a plus 185 underdog. What do you make of this one?
It's actually a tough fight. Listen, here, UFC Casuals. Here's my casual coming out. I don't know a lot about Christian Rodriguez, but just looking at the stats, and I know that stats don't tell you everything, but the guy's 8-1, and 7 of his 8 wins are by finish. I mean, he has 4 subs and 3 KOs. That's impressive. I don't care what level you're fighting at. I mean, if you finish 8 of your wins, 7 of them by finish, that's impressive. So, I'm glad they're not giving Rosas like a can, like just some bum like they did in the last fight, kind of, in his debut. Does he deserve a main card fight in his second ever fight? I don't know. It's a cool story. He's young. He's 18. Like you said, he was winning fights at 17, like 16 as a pro. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. I'm excited for this. I think, do they deserve a main card spot over some of the other fighters? I don't know, but it's a cool story, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he's at the level of some of the fighters that are on the prelims now, but there's that draw of him being 18 years old. It's crazy. He's 2 years younger than us. That's just ridiculous to think about. So, I'm rooting for him. I hope the future goes well for him. And Rodriguez is also a solid fighter who probably has a lot of promise. And although to be quite honest, I don't know a whole lot about him either, but with that record and, finishes in 7 of his 8 wins, he seems like a very impressive fighter. So this is a tough test for Rojas, no doubt about it. But for this, I have Rojas winning, though. I have him winning by round 2 submission. What about you?
I don't think he gets a finish. He got a finish in his last fight, but the guy had no wrestling.
Yeah.
And he does have wrestling. I'll give him that. So I think he will wear Rodriguez down in this fight. I don't see him getting the finish. Rodriguez has never been finished. So, hey, maybe he goes in there and proves me wrong. Maybe he's a legitimate prospect. And we have, something legit in our hands at bantamweight. I did want to bring up, though, before I get in my prediction, Rojas. He says he can make, what's the division called?
125.
125, right? Flyweight. Flyweight. So that could be something to look out for in the future with him, because bantamweight's a tough division. If he's, I don't know like what his future beholds. I don't know if he's like, oh, I want to be the youngest UFC champ. But if it does have that mindset, maybe 125 would be easier for him because bantamweight's so tough.
Yeah. Well, I think bantamweight's, you can make a case that it's the most stacked division in the UFC. So, going down in weight and and fighting smaller opponents, even that could see much better results for him in the future.
I think it really could. So, I'm getting off topic, obviously. That's something we can, maybe in the recap, we can look at his future if he wins this fight. But so in terms of a decision, like I said, I don't think he finishes him, but I do think he wins. I think he's going to utilize that wrestling that he has. He's a great wrestler. And I think he might, it might be boring. He might lay on him, but he'll get the decision win.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up our coverage of UFC 287. That's all we got for you guys today. I'm excited, man. Down in South Beach, this is going to be a fun fight. There's going to be a bunch of fun fights. I'm rooting for Izzy, but hey, we'll see how it goes.
Yep. I'm excited too, man. I can't wait.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.